Uh, Governor Dean, let me start with talking about the 50-state strategy, and tell me if I'm wrong. It's something that we say on the air here from time to time, that it's not so much about winning a state like Utah, where George Bush got 72% of the vote, but rather that if we give up such broad swaths in the middle of the country, if Democrats do, that, people have cousins and uncles and relatives and friends, and they all talk to each other. And I feel like if we're not communicating with people in Alabama and Utah, eventually, actually more than likely, that belief sort of creeps out to the coasts. And I just want to know if there's any sort of truth to that it's not so much about winning, but about delivering a relevant message.
The 50-state strategy is about winning, but it is also about standing up for who we are. Many Americans believe things about the Democrats that simply are not true. We're godless people who don't care about the country and all this nonsense, but they believe it because they've been told that, and there's been no local party to stand up and say, well, this is what we really believe. So the first piece is we need to be everywhere because we need to stand up for ourselves, and we need to say who we are. And we will speak for the Democratic Party. The Republicans will not speak for the Democratic Party. The second piece is we can actually win. We've won races in Utah, Alabama, Alaska, Oklahoma, 4 successive House races in a row in Mississippi. We can win in these states, but we got to fight.
Well, Governor Schweitzer has a 75% approval rating in Montana, so clearly we could win in red states. And so totally agree with your strategy there. Governor Dean, in the next 6 months, the Democrats seem to have won on all the issues of policy. Tim Ryan gave a speech, Congressman Ryan of Ohio did, saying, pick an issue, and we win. Social Security, Iraq, you go down the list. So our guess is that the Republicans are going to bring on the hate.
Right.
That over the next 6 months, they are going to run one of the most negative campaigns you've ever seen in your life. What is the DNC strategy and the Democratic Party strategy for fighting back against that?
We have to be, first of all, we have to be really tough and disciplined and understand this is a 4-year, every 4 years fight, not a 10-month, every 4 years fight. Secondly, we have to resist their willingness to appeal to the lowest common denominator in people. The Republicans have brought down this country by appealing to people's hate and their envy and their resentment and their anger. We need to appeal to people's desire to be one community again. We need to be strict about that. And the last thing we have to do, and Democrats have to understand this, we need to speak with people where they are, not where we are. We need to speak to people in their language. We sometimes come at people by saying, well, here's the logical case for this, and that's why we're right. That's the wrong thing to do. We need to understand what's motivating people. And if they're voting out of anger or resentment or hate or fear, we need to embrace the reasons that they're voting and understand what those reasons are before just giving them some logical reason why they're wrong and we're right.
Governor Dean, is there a strategy of preemption that you guys are thinking about in the Democratic Party where you're going to lay the battlefield and say, hey, listen, these Republicans are going to run a negative campaign. And so when the negative campaign comes, people are ready for it and go, oh, yeah, they told us this negative campaign was coming. As opposed to you get hit with it, then you respond, and then they accuse you of being whiny, and that same old trap starts.
My advice to Democratic candidates is get out there early, give our positive message, which is pretty clear, health care, a strong national defense, depending on telling the truth, honesty and openness back in our government again. It's pretty clear what our message is. And then when they go negative, we need to be on television. Our candidates need to be on television talking about the negativity of the Republicans. Because people are sick of it. People don't want that kind of a country.
Governor Dean, you talked about how Democrats need to define Democrats, not allow Republicans to define Democrats. Let's talk about national security issues, warrantless wiretapping specifically for a quick second. It seems as if Democrats are so afraid that once again we'll get labeled as weak on national security that on an issue that 25 years from now we're going to look back, I think, with a great deal of shame on, that they don't seem to be fighting hard enough on national security because they fear Republicans will call them weak. Are we doing the right thing? And if we're not, what ought we be doing?
I don't believe that Democrats have run away from the national security wiretapping fight. That was a big fight. It lasted for about 2 weeks. The problem with Washington is that things move on. Then we had some stuff in the Iraq War. We had some other things that took up the time of the media. Democrats have been pretty firm that the president broke the law. The president broke the law when he decided to tap the phones of Americans, and he didn't tell the truth to the American people either.
Governor Dean, I got to disagree with you. I don't think they have been firm. And I'll give you an exact vote to let you know about that. General Hayden is the person who ran the illegal warrantless wiretapping program at the NSA. He's part of the guys, the intelligence failures of 9/11, and 2/3 of the Democrats voted to confirm him. That does not sound strong.
Well, I think that's partly tactics. Do you want to have a big fight over somebody who's going to get confirmed anyway? Or do you want to speak about the failures in Iraq, the failures to manage the economy and jobs? You can't fight every single battle, every single day, full out. You've got to save some reserve. So the battle was fought when the president's turned out not to, once again, being telling the truth about who he was listening to, because it turns out he was listening to all Americans, not just a few terrorists. And then the question is, was General Hayden going to be confirmed or not? And he was, because he was going to get confirmed whether the Democrats stood up or not. So, look, we can have a disagreement about that, but I think the Democrats have been pretty clear on record. We believe that the president did not tell the truth once again to the American people about who he was listening to.
I just got to tell you, from all our callers, all our emailers, all our listeners, they say, yeah, we know you're in the minority, but you got to fight anyway.
The question is, I agree with that, and that I have been part of the Democratic Party that said we need more fights more often, but that doesn't mean you have to have every fight every time.
And you think Democrats in the House and the Senate have done a good enough job sort of standing up that we're a party that can protect you and your children and your family?
I think we're getting there. I never think anybody's ever done a good enough job, including myself. We're getting better about it. We need to be tougher about it. One of the things I really like is what we have to say about national security. We want a tough, strong national defense. But the first thing in that national defense will be to tell the truth to our soldiers, our citizens, and our allies before we go abroad. That did not happen under President Bush. It needs to happen any time American troops are sent abroad. I think that's a good place to be in the national defense argument.
In addition to national defense, one area where Democrats, of course, as you know, have struggled is that we don't obviously want to be seen as the party of godless infidels. How do we talk to Americans better about religion without alienating?
We can talk to people about values. If you're a religious person, it's easy to talk about religion. Tim Kaine did a great job. He's a deeply religious Catholic, and he, unlike most of the Republicans, actually walks the walk. He did missionary work. He's given of himself in many, many ways to make the world a better place long before he got into politics. But if you're not comfortable talking about religion, as many people from New England are not, because historically we get burned at the stake for talking about our religion, then speak about your values. Speak about your values. And that's what I tell Democratic candidates all the time. Speak about who you are. The reason we don't win as many elections as we should, given that most people agree with what the Democrats want for America, not what the Republicans want, is because we don't speak about our values, what drives us, what kind of human beings we are. That's what we need to speak about.
Last question for you, Governor Dean. On the issue of strength, I think a lot of times the Democratic Party makes the mistake of thinking strength is about national security, and if we're not in favor of the preemptive wars, etc., we're going to be seen as weak. Clearly, you don't make that mistake. I wrote a piece about how you were right about the Iraq War and your speech you gave before it, but unfortunately it seems like a lot of the senators and sometimes the congressmen do as well. Do you think the Democratic Party is coming closer to understanding that strength is about the courage of your convictions, and that's why Bernie Sanders is winning by 45 points in Vermont, state obviously you're very familiar with, and Schweitzer has a 75% approval rating in Montana, and it's not about aggressive wars, it's about I believe in what I believe in, and I'm going to stand up for it.
That is absolutely right. The courage of one's convictions is what makes you win. I have said that this is true of Republicans, not just Democrats. Too often, members of the party that's in the minority think that the way to win is to be more like the majority. That's the worst thing you can do. That guarantees you being in the minority for a long time. We will take over the House this time if Democrats will stand up for what they believe in and make sure that people understand that Democrats are the party of change. If we don't do that, and if we offer the public Republican light, we're going to lose.
Governor Dean, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.